Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boscheman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the forecast for the full moon that's occurring on March 14th, 2025. We're going to look at the forecast for each life path number to see how these energies might affect you. Now, what's important about this illumination is it's also an eclipse. And so this lunar eclipse is actually going to start the evening of the 13th. And will continue through into the early hours of the 14th. The full moon reaches its fullness on the early mornings of the 14th. So kind of looking at both of those dates, depending on where you live in the world. Now, this lunar eclipse, we're already in eclipse season. So at the time of this recording, which is on the 5th of March, we're already heavy into this. We're feeling these energies. And so it's, of course, going to be at its point of culmination on the 14th. Now, eclipses and why these are so important is because a lot of times they can bring in some kind of closure, some kind of ending, and they can initiate the beginning of a new storyline, a new cycle. And a lot of times we won't see what sort of is in store or what this energy is bringing about fully until several months down the road. And so again, where this might be the point of initiation or the point of culmination, depending on the situation, we might not see the full effects of this eclipse until 3 to 6 months down the road, sometimes even beyond that into the next year. So it's a storyline that is continuing to unfold, continuing to open. However, around the point of this illumination and this eclipse, we should have a pretty good idea of what that storyline is going to be. And that's what we'll kind of look at today to see what the point is, the point of your awareness, where that needs to be around this eclipse. Okay, before we get into the forecast for the life path numbers, this is a general forecast. If you would like your own personal numerology reading, I would love to work with you. You can book some time with me. My information is in the description box below. All right, let's take a look. Life path number 1, you all are going to be working with a vibration of the 9 for this eclipse. And this is a really potent energy to be working with at the time of a lunar eclipse. And so with full moons, and this is also a full moon, with full moons, a lot of times this can indicate some kind of closure, some kind of ending, something coming to culmination, being closed out, the loose ends being tied up and released. And that's kind of this, it's very similar to 9 energy. So for you all, you could likely see some changes coming in, definitely some endings in some area of life. And though we tend to fear endings, and we also fear change, they both serve a purpose. And it doesn't always have to be challenging or uncomfortable or difficult to move through those changes or those endings. Sometimes those changes bring a lot of joy. Sometimes those endings bring a lot of joy. It's just sort of like, how they show up. So you could be moving through some kind of a court case and, the final settlement comes through and you're quite pleased with the results, right? So that's some kind of ending. Or there might be a project that you've been really procrastinating on or haven't had all the pieces to be able to decide what to do next. And you could see that all come in now so that you can complete whatever that is, so that you can tie up those loose ends and complete it and get it off your plate. And that can feel really, really good. Same thing with change, right? Like you might get a promotion, but that promotion might require you to have to change locations or move or, something along those lines. That can be challenging, but it can also be really exciting and you might really enjoy the new chapter that it brings forth. So my point of saying all this is because usually when we go through a 9 cycle, and especially when it's with such potent energy as a lunar eclipse, full moon lunar eclipse, it's a significant ending, typically, or it's a significant change that potentially has the ability to change the course of our life in some way. And remember, it's the beginning of a storyline. So, or at least is closing out a chapter so that we can step into the next chapter. So it's usually quite pivotal and usually quite significant. So pay attention to, well, I don't even have to say pay attention. I mean, you'll know. But, you'll likely get some kind of greater clarity at this time, some kind of greater inspiration at this time for the actions that you need to take. And you could see some significant endings or closure come in at this time that will initiate some or force you to initiate some kind of change in order to move forward, in order to step into the next chapter. A lot of times when we move through a 9 cycle, what we end up seeing is things that we were either procrastinating on or things that we knew had to be finished up or closed out or ended, but didn't have the courage to do or the patience or the commitment to do. Usually the 9 will come in and sort of force our hand a little bit. So if it's a relationship that needs to end because it's impeding our evolution forward, you will likely see that relationship come to closure under a 9 cycle, and especially under a lunar eclipse, right? So it's fated events, it's non-negotiable fated events. And the 9 is also that kind of energy anytime we move through a 9 cycle. It's going to help us to release or get rid of what is standing in our way, what's keeping us from moving forward. And sometimes that can be exciting. Sometimes it can be really uncomfortable. But either way, again, it's that non-negotiable energy. We can fight it all we want, but it's just going to delay the process momentarily. And it's just going to make it way more uncomfortable for everybody involved. So if you find at this time that things are trying to fall away, it's in your best interest to let them fall away. Because if they're falling away, it's because you no longer need them. Like, it no longer supports your journey. It no longer brings, anything to your table, so to speak. So it's in your best interest to release it, let it go. This can be around belief systems, relationships, jobs. I mean, it's just the whole myriad of things, the way that this could come in. But the key to remember is, if it's falling away, it's because it needs to. It's time. It's served its purpose. Let it go. Doesn't mean that it's not going to resurface later if its energy is needed. But at this point in time, it's served its purpose. And the point of the 9 cycle is often to clear out the weeds, right? What's impeding the growth of more flowers, the weeds. So get rid of the weeds. That's sort of what this energy is about. You could see that things happen really quickly now, that there's a lot of sort of starts and stops. Pay attention to those starts and stops during this period, because those starts and stops are bringing about that change and transformation. Even though it might not seem like it might just feel frustrating at times, but it's actually bringing in something bigger for you to work with. Definitely a cycle of eliminating or releasing what's useless, what no longer is working, what's separating you from your sort of greatest potential, what you're moving towards. This could be definitely a time where, if you're so hung up on past mistakes or, an emotional experience that occurred, if you're really stuck there, this energy can come in and help you to move through it. Now, another beautiful thing about the 9 cycle is that it can help us to achieve the goals that we've been wanting to achieve. It can bring in the clarity. A lot of times that clarity is going to come from within, though. So, pay attention to that. It's not necessarily something that's going to be delivered to you from the external, but it's more like that those aha moments or that inspiration that can help you to put the puzzle pieces together and be able to move forward. So definitely pay attention to dreams at this time, insights, visions, downloads, your intuitive hits. Absolutely pay attention to your intuition at this time. Really, really important. Pay attention also to what wants to be released, what wants to be let go of, but that you are clinging to and trying to hold on to, but it's actually impeding your progress. Usually the 9 is going to bring in some kind of a closure, some kind of an end of a cycle. And there's usually a pause there before that void is sort of refilled. before you start the new. So this is a period of time where you want to pay attention to what does come into you, what flows, what comes in naturally. Again, whether it's through your dreams or your inspirations or what someone says to you, or if it's something tangible that shows up on your doorstep, this is a time to not force anything, but to see what presents to you and then decide how you want to work with it. Decide the next steps to take. And then you're going to get the most out of it. The other thing that this could bring in for you is an opportunity to see where it needs to be a little bit more about others, where you can show up in a way in purpose that's greater than you. The focus is not necessarily just on you at this time. It's really about how your contributions can help to uplift, empower, inspire others, how your energy can help to, collaborate with others, work towards a greater solution with others. So others come into your sphere of experience at this time. And so this is a great time to volunteer, share your wisdom, your expertise, pro bono, so to speak. This is a great time to, invest in other people and supporting other people in some way, not doing it for them, but helping them to find the tools or achieve, get whatever they need in order to do it for themselves. So beautiful time for charitable work, for, helping others in some way, and having your focus primarily be on other people's welfare, right? First, fill up your own cup, but this is a time to shift the focus onto others and how your work, how your energy sort of impacts others, and take a closer look at that. This is also can be a really creative period as well. So you could see some beautiful creative ideas come in at this time. So definitely, I would say during this time, write everything down that feels like it's powerful for you, because you might not know what to do with it just now, but you will have a greater understanding down the road, I would say, for sure. So really beautiful spiritual energy at this time. This is definitely a not forcing it, not being overly impulsive type of energy. Just you've put in the effort that, this isn't a time for starting something new is basically what I'm trying to say. Finishing up old projects, excellent time. Making plans for the future, excellent. But taking that initiative and going all in and being impulsive, you're probably going to be kind of frustrated if you do that. When we do that under a 9 cycle, usually what happens is we have to revisit it and we have to make some major adjustments, or it doesn't work out, right? It just doesn't work out the way that we wanted it to or expected it to. So if you can kind of avoid making big initiations that aren't something you've already been working on during this period, then I think you'll reap the most out of it. If it comes to you and it flows and it feels good, go for it. Then yes, initiate. But if it's something you're I see it, I want it, I'm going to force getting it, I think you're going to be frustrated with that and the outcome of that. All right, so I hope that you found this helpful, and I hope that it is a beautiful eclipse. I think it will be. I think it's going to be pretty powerful. But yeah, wishing you the best. Take care, ones. Bye for now.